5, so I'm going to start the recording and the transcripts and turn it over to our presenters.
Welcome to our session on how we do advising at Rowan Community College for our early college students and how we get them involved in this process. So we wanted to begin by telling you a little about us. Since this is a nationwide conference, we are with Rowan Community College. We're a community college based in Piedmont, North Carolina, so about 45 minutes north of Charlotte for reference. We have 5 campuses across Rowan and Cabarrus County. We have 3 early colleges. So a little background about our programs. Our students, depending on the school or campus, have a 4- or 5-year program option, and also depending on what they're pursuing. They have access to all of our degrees, certificates, and diplomas. And of course, tuition is covered through the Career and College Promise program. And then the school districts cover the fees and textbooks cost each semester. So our 3 early colleges are Cabarrus Kannapolis Early College, and they serve Cabarrus County and Kannapolis City. Cabarrus County is also served by Cabarrus Early College of Technology. And finally, Rowan County has Rowan County Early College.
All right, good morning. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to talk about the why we started doing our advising process like this. We attended a liaison session, and I heard one of the early college liaisons talking about that he didn't do any advising, that his students went in and registered themselves. And so that kind of piqued my interest, like, well, what is he doing? Because I'm doing all of this advising. So we have about 250 students, but I'm like, hand registering all 250 of these students. So what is he doing? So I kind of asked a couple of questions to get an idea of what he was using and what he was doing to do that advising process where those students were actually enrolling themselves, knowing that that's not something I knew our college would let our students do as far as letting them enroll themselves, that was definitely still something we were going to have to do, but how to get our students more enrolled in the process. And so typically our advising process looked like our students kind of said, this is what I'm thinking about majoring in. This is the school I'm looking at. And so kind of our background knowledge was like, okay, well, you're going to this school. These are the classes you need. These are the best teachers to put you with. And this is the best time to take these classes. And so they kind of had a conversation with us. And in our heads, we put together and planned out this schedule for us. And we did all of this work. So they weren't really doing much, but coming and having a conversation with us. And so that was a lot of work for us. And so we had been doing that for years. And I had a student, and this is one of my recent grads here. She had all A's. She had full ride scholarships to kind of wherever she wanted to go. And she was a student that I was very close with. And so she graduated and was at school and was trying to register for classes. And she called and she said, Dr. Brown, I need help. I don't know how to do this because you always did this for me. She didn't know how to pick her classes. She knew what she wanted to major in, but she didn't know how to look at her pathway and really choose those classes and say, okay, I need to take this semester and that semester because this is the only time it's offered. She didn't know how to do that. She didn't know how to follow that plan. And I said, okay, well, we're doing our students a disservice because we're doing all of this for them. And then when they leave us, they don't know how to do it. And, at our school, we have 250 and Danielle has 400 at her school. They have that one-on-one attention for us, but they're going to these 4-year institutions where there's thousands of students and they may not get that hour with one-on-one with the counselor that they need whenever they need it. And so they need to be able to track their progress throughout their degree programs and on their own. And so that's when I kind of took that little bit of knowledge I got from that other liaison who said his students registered themselves and what can we do on our end? And so our college had been talking about making sure we're using baccalaureate degree plans. BDPs is what you'll hear Danielle talk about on the next slide, to have students look at what degrees they're going to major in when they leave us, and then using that to choose the classes that they're going to take here at the community college while they're enrolled with us. And so in using that process that we'll explain later on in our presentation, students basically go in and they're selecting their own classes based on that bachelor degree plan and the classes that are offered at the community college. And they're planning out their junior and senior year and tracking it and knowing what classes they need, what classes this which school is asking for, and they're able to have those discussions among themselves with their parents and know what they're talking about when they're having those advising meetings with us. So they're coming in knowledgeable. They're coming in, having a meeting with me and saying, I want to go to UNC Chapel Hill, and I know that I need to take Spanish 211 here because they want us to come with 3 Spanishes there. But then coming back after the summer and saying, I don't want to go there anymore, so I don't need that Spanish anymore. I want to take this different class because I looked at the BDP for another school and I don't need it. So them being really knowledgeable about what they need when they leave our early college. And the other part of that is them talking with their peers about it. So they're talking to their peers. What are you majoring in? What school are you looking at? So what classes are you taking? Well, I'm majoring in that too. And I didn't look at that class. Maybe I didn't look at my plan right. So they're really having those conversations and really, really engaged in what do I need to plan for while I'm here at the early college and these college classes here? And then what do I need to be looking for when I go to my 4-year institution and talk to my advisor to make sure I'm getting the right classes on my schedule.
Great morning. So we decided, what do we need for our students to come prepared for this registration process? What does that look like at each campus? And how do we empower our students to do so? So Dr. Brown just vaguely mentioned BDPs. North Carolina has created uniform articulation agreements with our public senior institutions and many in the community colleges. It's called a comprehensive articulation agreement, and many private institutions also honor the CAA. From these articulation agreements, institutions, public and private, created baccalaureate degree plans, also known as BDPs. Advisors can use these BDPs to recommend courses for students. So what we did was we asked our students to come prepared to our advising session with these BDPs. They're accessible, they're publicly accessible. So all of our students we do train our students how to look these up. And some students may come to an advising session with more than one BDP. I ask that students only come with a max of 3 so we can compare and contrast what classes you need at different schools. Other students may know exactly where they want to go and what they want to major in. So therefore, those students may come to our advising session with only 1 BDP, which is great. From the BDP, we're able to determine if they are going to seek a AA, AS, or AFA. Those are all pathways that are associated with the BDPs, and our AAS pathway is a terminal degree. So from looking at the BDPs, we can determine which degree that they will earn while they're at Rowan Cabarrus Community College. The AA and AS programs are the most popular degree plans, and they align with the majority of our students' goals. We also use high school GPA for juniors and seniors. Due to the CCP guidelines, we're able to place students in entry-level math and English courses for juniors and seniors. To access these high school GPAs, we oftentimes our school counselors are also in our advising sessions, so they can provide that, or we can get this information from our data managers. Test scores. Pre-COVID, the test scores that I primarily used were RISE, but post-COVID, and COVID began to shake our norms. We began to rely a little bit more heavily on ACT, pre-ACT, SAT, PSAT, or any standardized test can place students into any entry-level math and English courses. Classes used for dual credit. So this may look different at each school. Some Specifically, well, all of our early colleges use English 111, English 112, and English 231 in lieu of the high school English 3 requirement. Other classes that are strongly recommended are Spanish 111 and Spanish 112 because it's a high school requirement for those students to go as incoming freshmen to have 2 foreign language requirements. So a lot of our students also use that. One other class that all of our early colleges use is HEA 110, and that's in lieu of that health and PE high school credit. The other 2 early colleges, they do use History 111 and History 112. And that counts as their world history requirement. Our students at Rowan Cabarrus Community College do have limits on acquired credits. AA and AS degree are only 60 and 61 credit hours. Most of our students do graduate with about 63 credit hours. So we have to get approval from our Vice President of Academic Programs in order to do that.
Okay, so we wanted to talk to you about kind of the steps, and we know that this is a nationwide conference, so we wanted to make it, we have specific programs that we use at Rowan Cabarrus to work with our students, and I realize those may be different on your campus, but I'm sure you have something comparable. So we begin with the transcript. We have students go into our program that we use as WebAdvisor for our students to have access, and they go in, we ask them to go in ahead of time and take notes on, what categories, what sections of their transcript they've fulfilled already. Is that English composition that you're done with? Is it your social behavioral sciences? And then to also take notes on where you have open spaces and what choices you have. Because of course we know that different sections in the transcript have a long list of electives to choose from. And some of them, you have 5 or 6 classes to choose from. And so once they have that information, and that is just brilliant to start with, because you think, a lot of students, they know exactly where they are. And what I find when they come to these advising meetings is a lot of students, they don't even know what their GPA is. And so, we're talking about that. We invite parents to our advising meetings, especially in their junior year. And so it's always an interesting conversation when I had a student yesterday, she has a 4.0, and I was telling her how proud I am of her. And she's like, wow, I didn't know I had that. So I think that they're aware, but what I find is they're not. So getting them engaged in just that process of knowing where they are with their education. And also, once they know where that is, then they can, continue to track that progress all the way up to graduation. Danielle mentioned that we have a limit on acquired credits. And so, a lot of students, they want to take 62,000 credit hours because they're like, this will help me get ahead. But of course, we know that their senior institutions can only award so much credit coming in, and that's right around that 61 credit mark. So I, want to help them be involved in the process so they can watch on our screen. They have a little green indicator up at the top that marks as they complete credit hours. And I think that's also exciting for them to see. So we have them look at their transcript, see what open spaces they have, and then compare that BDP with, okay, these are the classes that you need still on your plan to go to your current senior institution. Danielle and Dr. Brown both mentioned that students, of course, they do change their plan. As I met with my juniors this week, there was a lot of conversations about what happens if I change my mind. And I said, that's why we write this in pencil, so that we take the best information we have this semester, and then, we make the best plan that we can. And then if we need to edit that, then that's what we do. From semester to semester. I also want to mention that I have learned recently that some schools have transfer guides in addition to BDPs, and those are really helpful for our dual enrolled students because they do have a number of dual enrolled credits that they need anyway. And so of course, we're trying to work that alongside the BDP. But with a transfer guide, we can really drill down and see, okay, this is the list of classes that are prerequisites that are required to get into their major and to get a solid start there. UNC Charlotte is a fantastic one close to us that we work with transfer guides, and they're so helpful. And so then from that list of classes that they need to start well into their senior institution, we help them to fill in those open spaces in their transcript with their electives. And so from there, now we know, okay, we need to take these classes, and these are the best choices for your humanities, fine arts, communication based on the college that you're going to. Then they make a schedule plan. So, our spring classes aren't live just yet, but they will be soon. And so once they go live and the students know what they're taking next semester, then they pick their own sections and make their plan. And that's interesting from campus to campus because, for instance, my campus is more of a satellite campus. And so we have a number of classes there, but also my students are able to go to South Campus close by and take classes there. So we talk about, okay, we've got a plan for the logistics here. We've got a plan for travel time between campuses and time to ask your instructor a question at the end of class and not be rushed in between. So we talk about all of that. And if they're bus riders, what that looks like, that the bus can pick them up at home and take them straight to South Campus all day, or it can pick them up and bring them to our campus at CVTC all day. And so really working in the logistics of their plan kind of gets down to the nitty gritty of that. And then making that plan for the following semester and even into their senior year. We try to, like I said, it's in pencil, but we try to go ahead and plan for that, because if we know they want to take Bio 111 and 112, well, that's going to be, fall and spring of your senior year. And if we're going to take some math classes with that, how are those going to pair with other things? And maybe you need to take a summer class to lighten up your fall semester load. So kind of looking at the big picture along the way as we go.
And so, excuse me, so at all of our campuses, we start talking with our students about bachelor BDPs in freshman year, so they know what they are and start to familiarize themselves with them so that when we get to junior year, they can really get to them quickly. They know how to read them, they know what to do with them. But then that also helps us once they start looking at them and see what those classes are in those majors that they're thinking about. That helps some of them make those decisions of maybe this isn't what I thought it was, I wanted to major in, or maybe I want to change. I'm not interested in these classes that I'm going to eventually have to take. But it also helps us plan out for those students a student who says, hey, I've wanted to be an engineer since I was 6 years old. So I know that student is going to need to take Calc 1, 2, and 3. They're going to need physics. They're going to need chemistry. And with the limit of credit hours that you can take at our school, we have to do some very creative planning and scheduling to try and get some of those credits in. So like how Danielle talked about the types of classes that we take, those dual credits, where at our campus and where Danielle is, where we use the history 111 and 112 to count for our world history credit on the high school side. I have a student who needs Calc 1, 2, and 3. So instead of taking the history on the college side, which is going to take up 6 credit hours for her, she's going to take North Carolina Virtual Public High School history and use that on the high school side. So that frees up 6 more college credits for her to be able to get in another math class and another elective class. So we're trying to figure out how we can be flexible, but the sooner we start looking at that with students and we know what their plans are, because everybody in junior year starts with that history. So if we go ahead and put you in history before you've decided I need this calculus, then we're kind of too late at that point to try and preserve those extra credits. So really having those conversations with students and letting them really know this is how we advise, this is our process, and you're going to be using these BDPs and these transfer guides to plan out your classes is really important for our students to know and understand. I was sitting in covering a club a couple of weeks ago with our students, and one of our freshmen asked our juniors, when do we get to start picking our classes? Because, you know, pretty much freshman and sophomore year is pretty prescribed here of what they can take. And so the student was explaining, you got to go and schedule an appointment with Dr. Brown, and you'll pull up your BDP and you'll go through and pick classes, and then you'll go in WebAdvisor and select the classes, and then she'll actually put your schedule in and all of that. And then that student said, but if you don't schedule your appointment, she's going to make your schedule for you. And I didn't do that. So she picked my classes for me. So I give them, you know, just kind of also giving them that reality side of it, because when they go to their senior institutions, if they have an appointment or an advising enrollment deadline and they miss that deadline, they're either just going to be put in a class or they're going to miss out on that opportunity. And so I've talked to them about, you may need this one class here to graduate. And when registration opens, you need to be on that computer registering, or you need to be in that line or meeting with your advisor to get in that class. So if you have deadlines set or requirements that need to be handled to be able to get into these classes, you need to learn to follow through and handle those things now so that you're prepared when you leave us. So just our advising process is really just making sure that they are prepared to go out and do what they need to do when they leave our school and be successful as students, or if they're going into a career field, being able to follow those directions and guidelines and be successful at whatever they choose to do when they leave us. So we just want to make sure that we are really preparing them for whatever they need to do.
So at CVTC Campus, we do just like Dr. Brown said, you know, we start in the freshman year talking about the BDPs. They're looking those up already. Our students on our campus, they do have a choice between 3 social behavioral science classes that they take fall of their sophomore year. And so some of them, you know, they know that they want to major in psychology. So they know they need to take Psych 150 as a prerequisite for all the other psych classes. And so they go ahead and take that fall of their sophomore year, and that helps them, you know, get a good, a solid start there. And we also know that on most of the BDPs, you know, they just need a social behavioral science. So having to be super specific with that early class is not necessarily essential, but it is getting them involved in the process early. My students at CVTC Campus, they, you know, their junior year is also pretty prescribed. You know, they're taking that Spanish 111 and then 112. They're taking that history 111 and 112. They're taking their gateway college math, their first college math, and they're taking, you know, their English, whether they're in 111 or 112, depending on where they're starting. And so they are, the junior year is a great place for them to jump in and get started with the planning process. Because, you know, they know spring semester of their junior year is pretty much, let me take the next level of whatever this class is. And a lot of them are able to pick one elective space based on their BDP. So it's kind of an easy place for them to feel like they're not just out there completely wide open choosing electives, but they are able to be part of the process. And this is also the point where a lot of our students on our campus, a number of our students do the Associate of Applied Science because we do very much encourage them to, if they're interested in one of the CTE pathways, to get started on that. So yesterday we had a meeting with a student starting in the motorsport management program, and it was fantastic. The program chair was able to attend that meeting, and the program chair and my student had this brilliant conversation about what the program is going to look like for him and his interest and where he already is in the motorsport world. Just really cool things to see them just getting engaged in this process. And then their senior year, I graduate them to, okay, you've been adding your classes to, in our system, it's a timeline in WebAdvisor, so they can kind of see each semester planned out ahead of them. And then what's really great is once they add the classes to their timeline, then they can also see that they are planned or not fully planned on their transcript in WebAdvisor. There's just a great interactive process for them to follow along with their education. And then their senior year, they are fully choosing their classes and their schedule. So junior year, yeah, we're getting them involved in picking the electives and putting things on their timeline. But their senior year, they are actually picking the sections and making that schedule, because with senior year at our campus, they have a lot more privileges where they can go to, as I mentioned, South Campus that is close by. They have a lot more freedom and flexibility in their schedule. So so yeah, it's just a graduated process at our campus to getting them more and more independent and having a greater input. I just had an email from a student this morning, one of my seniors, and we made a plan last year based on the transfer guide at the school she's interested in. And she's doing her research for spring semester right now. So she got in and looked, and lo and behold, last year their BDPs were under construction. So their BDPs just are newly revised. And she emailed me and she said, I'm concerned. On the transfer guide, I had a choice between anthropology or sociology. I took
4 years. I'm going to start their sophomore years so that I'm catching a captive audience. I can walk them through. Many of those students are on campus and have been through the pandemic, whereas my juniors and seniors, a lot of them are working, even if it's during school hours. And it's hard to catch a captive audience and to follow through, honestly, with these plans. I feel as if I get them involved in the process a little bit earlier, their sophomore year, then they would be more inept to do it their junior and senior year. Now, our sophomores do have an option, like Jennifer was mentioning, that they get to choose a social and behavioral science. So I feel as if we implement this in small sections, only choosing one class or two classes at a time, then it will give them a lot of practice to do it their junior and senior years. I'm also working on buy-in from students and parents. Dr. Brown mentioned that if her students are not active and participate in this process, then they do not get to choose their classes. So I do plan on following through because I did say it, but it's the follow through. So I do plan on following through with the promise. If you do not do this, your classes will be chosen for you, and I will not change it. So hopefully that gets them more excited about this. I see how important it is for students to be able to do this as they matriculate to their senior institutions. So it's a tool that they can really use. So we're at the beginning stages, but that's okay. And that's it for now. We are open to taking any questions at this time.
I saw one question in the chat, I think from the very beginning. I don't know if we've gotten to answer that. Samantha was asking, does each student have an assigned advisor? And if yes, when is the first time they meet? And I think we've kind of answered that as we've gone through, but at the early colleges, we, the liaisons, are their assigned advisor. So yes, and we do begin meeting with them usually in groups their freshman year. We go to their seminar classes that they have seminar classes to support their learning at each early college. And so we go to those and talk to them really early on about BDPs and try to get them involved and thinking about that from the get-go.
Did you see any other questions in the chat, Jennifer?
Another question just came in the chat, but I can't see it now. Says, do you all have? Yes, the college has other advisors for CCP non-early college high school students. There are advisors specifically for CCP non-early college students.
And that I see question from Samantha, do they register themselves? And so we get them involved in the process and picking their courses, and later on in my campus, their senior year, choosing their sections. But we, because they're under 18, we still must register all of our students. And we've talked about maybe a process one day in the future, maybe like the next 2 years or something, working with our college to maybe we have a group of seniors and going into their spring semester, they're about to finish, and we have them all in a room together, and we let them register themselves so they can really get in the process. And then of course we're checking behind them. And this is, I think, an interesting process, because we tell our students, this is actually, it's actually more work for us, because, we're teaching them how to do this. We're, taking them in step by step into the process. And then we're checking behind them, but it's so worth it to have them involved. And then ultimately, they are also taking charge of their education, because, they're looking at their transcript and they know where they are and they know what they need left. I love seeing the light bulb come on with them that, oh, I'm not just being told. I had a junior yesterday. I'm not just being told what I'm going to take. You've helped me with your knowledge of the classes to take my input and us make a plan together. And I mean, of course, we weren't going to do that at any point, just give him his classes, but it's just great to see them be so excited about being engaged.
And I see another question. Jennifer and I both have about 250 students each, and Danielle has 400 students that we advise. And then there was another question: how do you recruit students from local districts, and what impact did it have on your local district funding? So for recruitment for Cabarrus County, we have all of our magnet programs have a magnet program fair, where all of the magnet programs within the whole county have just a big fair, and all of the students can come and find out about all of the different programs that we have at all of our high schools. And then our applications open up, so students go on and they can apply to all of the magnet programs. So they can apply to the early college, they can apply to the IB program, they can apply to our health professions program, they can apply to any of our magnet programs in the district. The other programs are lottery based. Our early colleges, South and CVTC, where Jennifer is, we have an interview process for our campuses. So ours is not lottery based. And so that's how students get into our schools. It doesn't really do anything regards with our funding. They're still within Cabarrus County. So it's still the same funding, because they're still within our county. The only thing is from Kannapolis City Schools, with just, we take students from that district. We take 5 students each year. And so they pay for those students to come into Cabarrus County. But we can only take 5. So we get funding from them for those 5 students. So that impacts their budget a little bit, but that doesn't have any impact on our Cabarrus County budget. And then for Danielle, do you want to talk about your recruitment?
So for Rowan County Early College, the high school principal, the school counselor, and myself, we go into the middle schools and recruit students and tell them about our program. Theirs is a little bit different. It does not count as a magnet school. So our students are applying to the school, and it is strictly lottery based. So, and 80% of our students are going to be first generation students. So it's just the luck of the draw. Our lottery system does mimic what our county population looks like. So we're oftentimes the most diverse school within Rowan County. I'm unsure of the impact, but I would like to say about the funding, but I would like to say it would not take away from the funding either, since it is just a option, a high school option.
Okay, we had another question that says, are your early colleges at max capacity, and is capacity 100 per grade level? So we are not at max capacity, but we are at max for what we have space for. We don't have any more, our classroom cap, I think for early colleges for Cabarrus County that we're sticking to right now is about 22. So they are not, they're letting us stick to a 22 class size. So right now we don't have any more classrooms to put teachers in to be able to increase our grade level. So we take 66 students per grade, 66 students each year into our freshman class. So if we get a larger building and we can have more teachers, we would definitely add more students to that number, but we literally have no more space to do that. All right, and then there was another question, if a student no longer wants to be a part of the program due to the application process. We've actually never had that happen. I don't know of anyone who stopped because of the application process. We've more so had students maybe at the right before school starts that maybe was on a waiting list for another school, got into that other school and decided to go to that school instead of our school, decided not to come. But our application process, they completed online, they answer a couple of essay questions and they come in for an interview, and we basically interview the parent, and then we ask the parent to leave and we talk to the student and really ask the student, do you want to be here? Because a lot of times our parents see free college and you're going to go do that program because I can't afford to pay for you to go to college. And if the student doesn't want to be here, they're not going to be successful. And so we have that conversation with the students by themselves. And so some students say, I don't want to do this. I want to go play football at my traditional high school, but my mom said I had to do this. And so we know, all right, this is not one we're going to accept because they don't want to be here. But you know, they're in front of their parents. It's a different conversation. So,
And
go ahead.
For North Campus, I do feel like people have dropped out due to the application process. We do have an interview process within the application process, and that interview is strictly to converse with the student, converse with the parent. As long as you complete the process, the entire process, you are entered into that lottery. But a lot of times when we go into the conversations, the student will understand or the parent will understand, well, this isn't the best fit for me. So I feel like it's more of a conversation, an honest conversation. So sometimes that does deter students from our program.
You guys are asking great questions out there. Thank you. I see the logistics question from Caitlin about our students labeled with their chosen degree program in order to populate the plan in WebAdvisor. And so, yes, the sooner that we can do that, the better, so that they are able to truly look at that transcript compared to the pathway that they're in. But I will tell you that the way that we generally do that is when they take, so if they plan, and some of them know when they come in as freshmen, they want to do the Associate in Science program. And so we don't immediately change them over to that. So we wait until they take that Math 171 pre-calculus algebra class, because that's kind of one of the entry classes and required classes. It's one of the math choices that they most often choose for the Associate in Science. And we wait until they are successful in that. When we say successful, that is a B. Once they make a B in Math 171, then we go ahead and put them in the Associate in Science program while they're still taking Math 172 or brief calculus Math 263. So we do wait for that. So if they don't make a B in Math 171, I tell them, you're not finished, that's not it, but we wait until you pass Math 172 or brief calculus or whatever your next math is, because the statistical chance of them being successful in Math 172, if they earn lower than a B, is less than 25% chance to be successful in Math 172. So we do try to make sure that they're in the correct path. So we're not just changing them back and forth. And then do our students blend with campus or have closed cohort classes? So their freshman year is the only, their freshman first semester, that HEA 110 is the only class where that is a closed cohort for our freshmen. And then from then on, they will be in classes with anyone else who is on campus. And so, and they're aware of that going into the program. And that's my campus. I'm assuming that that's the same for the other campuses.
Yes, that's the same for our campus as well. I do have a little bit different ways to change from associate in arts or associate in science. We meet with parents and students the second semester of their sophomore year. So if that's what all three parties, Rowan County Early College, which would be me, myself, and the counselor, the school counselor, the parent, and the student want to go with associate in science or associate in fine arts, then at that time I will change their program because it does change their requirements within WebAdvisor, and they do like to track that. So, and some of my students don't take Math 171 until their junior year, but with all those parties there, typically we don't have the changing from back and forth.
I wanted to add to that something I forgot. We use Colleague on our campus. And so, if I know that they're doing the Associate in Arts program, I use the eval program within Colleague to show them, okay, this is your transcript and this is what you see in WebAdvisor as well. But if they're doing something else, I use the proposed program in Colleague to project. Okay, so you're not in this program yet, but this is what this is going to look like, and step by step. I also send them the link to the catalog so that, yes, it is a little more arduous that they're comparing until they're officially in that program, but they're able to go through and see, well, this is what I need in this section and that sort of thing. And I'll go ahead and talk about the next question, and this might be close to all the time we have for. So talking about all students can pursue all programs of study. It does include our associate in applied science, and some of those are much more lab intensive. And so we just, usually those classes, so our sophomores in their sophomore fall can also choose a CTE class in addition to that social behavioral science class. So they can get an early start in one of those associate in applied science, whether it's cybersecurity, computer programming, one of the construction management classes. So we do give them that option in their sophomore year to get started. But yes, I mean, we work with the scheduling to get them in those lab intensive classes because we do have a number of students who, they are just lit up by being able to be in hands-on classes, and, the academic side of things may not be what excites them as much, but when they can get in a hands-on class and start that trade early, that is when they see, yeah, this is my pathway and this is what I'm going to do to be successful in a trade when I graduate from the early college. I hope that answers your question.
In my at my campus, we don't have a lot of the CTE, well, we don't have any of those CTE programs. So I have the program chairs do presentations and share information with my students so they know what programs they have access to, and then they just kind of decide and ask questions based on that information there, and then they'll start junior year. So I've had students doing construction management. I have several students over at Jennifer's campus taking classes because she has programs over there. And then I have students who pursue cosmetology, which is at another campus. So really they can access whatever they want. We just don't have the option in sophomore year for our students to kind of test anything out. So they just have to get that information and then just ask lots of questions. So we make sure they have a good understanding before they make a decision to start one of the programs.
And my campus is very similar to Dr. Brown's. We do have those programs available, but it's just not built into the schedule to where our students can truly take advantage of those opportunities until their junior year.
They're great questions, everyone. This is your 5-minute warning.
Looks like we've got one more question about, do you also teach or facilitate workshops with your advisees? So like we talked about, we do meet with them in larger groups, starting their freshman and sophomore year, some one-on-one meetings, their junior year. So I do an information session with them. I did those last week where I go through and, go through a quick PowerPoint. This is how this is going to work, step-by-step process. And then they sign up and come to a 30-minute one-on-one meeting with me that their parents are also invited to, whether they attend in person or parents attend on Zoom. We learned over COVID that was one of the gifts, that Zoom is a great way to get parents involved when they don't have to drive across town and leave work. So yes, do a workshop to train them and then do one-on-one meetings with them. And then by the time they're seniors, they are well versed in this process. And so I save several days for them to do, to be open and be able to meet with them. And then I will also just hold some Zoom sessions where I'm just there. Here's the link, guys. If you want to jump in and ask a couple questions, you haven't set up a meeting exactly, but I'm here a couple of times, just totally available. And then, our seniors really aren't on campus very much, but they were a captive audience last Friday for one of their seminar meetings. And so I was able to go and be with them there in person. And, they just ask some of those quick questions because right now they pretty much know what they're doing. So.
And I was going to say, I do similar to what Jennifer does. I kind of do a presentation and go through what that process looks like for students to actually register. And what I do is when I go into the classroom, one of the classroom teachers, I do it in one of their Teams meetings. They just record me, my whole presentation of this is how you do it. And they save it and they upload it to Canvas for the students. So all students can go back and access it. So if anybody is absent, they can go back and watch the recording of how to do it. And then of course, the same as Jennifer, I just have those open office hours where if you want to drop in and you don't remember quite how to search for the class or where to add it or what exactly you're supposed to be doing, you can come in and ask those questions and I can help you. On this last slide here, you have all of our email addresses. If there's anything that you wanted to ask that we didn't get to answer, feel free to email us any questions. And I'm trying to see that we miss any. I saw, question. We got 2 minutes left. I'm just asking how many Black, Latinx, and Indigenous students we have in our programs. I know last I looked at percentages at my school, we are about 55% minority and 45, about 55% minority. And I asked my principal to send me numbers because I don't have them broken down. She said 55% minority and 45% white, I think. Yeah. And then she's got it broken down kind of further, but.
Yeah, we average at North Campus about 60% of minorities. That includes Latinx, Black, African American, and Asian. We always have a few students. So the majority of our classes, our campus, well, the majority of our early college is minority students, are minorities.
Thank you all so much for being here with us. And we hope you got some good information. And like, if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you for an amazing first session, Rowan Cabarrus. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.